Well, I always had this, like, you know, this fantasy about living in New York ever since I was a little kid. You know, I would watch, like, Woody Allen movies and stuff like that,
Right.
and Neil Simon plays turned into movies, and just, you know, there was this, like, whole romantic appeal about it, you know? And you know, when I was a kid, I couldn't really put my finger on it other than, you know, why I loved it so much. It was just, you know, it seemed ethnic, and it seemed romantic, and it seemed cultural, and it seemed exciting and vibrant, and all those things, and dirty, and I loved all of that, including the dirtiness. I had this picture, this like sort of map of Manhattan.
Right.
I remember I had this map of Manhattan like put in that office, and I had these like map pins, and I would, you know, I would read about Manhattan and you know, a certain site or a certain landmark or a certain place I wanted to go, and I would put a pin into that place, into that map.
And that's just on the island of Manhattan.
Just on the island of Manhattan.
And most people have that like with Europe, but you had that with just the island of Manhattan.
Just Manhattan, and I was so obsessed with it. I would even like go to the internet and find out like where the subway stop is for the, you know, the Met, the Metropolitan Museum, or you know, whatever thing I wanted to see, and I would write that down, and it.
I mean, do you think that was part of it?
I think, well, white people and Hispanics too. You know, I grew up in San Diego, so there was a lot of Hispanic there. But there were just, it wasn't enough. Yeah, it wasn't enough culture for me, and I always felt sort of bland. You know, I was sort of you know, this white blonde girl growing up in Southern California, as there are a million white blonde girls growing up in Southern California. I always felt like I'd receded into the background, you know, in my high school and everything, and there was nothing unique about me. Yet when I moved to New York and immersed myself into everything, I'd be like, you know, sitting on the bus or the subway or whatever, and you know, just would look up, and I would be like, sometimes I would be like the only white person on the subway or bus, or I'd be the only blonde girl there. Exactly. Yet, on the converse side, you can find people that are like you. And if you're Jewish, you can find a Jewish community. If you're, you know, if you're Chinese, you can find people that are the other Chinese and be completely immersed in that and feel like you're at home. Yeah, I mean, there were, you know, there are gentlemen's clubs in the next street over and stuff like that. So I mean, they are available. They just aren't as visible.
Right.
You know? And I remember, you know, going to visit Manhattan and sort of walking around, not really knowing where I was, and finding myself in, you know, the Hell's Kitchen, Ninth Avenue area, and feeling kind of scared. And, you know, invariably, I would hear 2-3 different languages spoken on the street. It started off as sort of a gangland, you know, playground for, you know, a lot of criminal activity.
And this is Hell's Kitchen.
Hell's Kitchen, yeah, that part of Manhattan.
And now it even has another name now, doesn't it?
I think they're trying to call it Clinton Hill or something like that.
Clinton Hill, sure.
Which is dumb because, you know, everybody sort of likes the nostalgia of living in Hell's Kitchen. This period of time when I lived there, I saw a real difference in the Times Square situation. You know, when I first moved there.
Well, how was Times Square when you first moved there?
When I first moved there, it was it was starting a gentrification process.
Okay.
Through Giuliani, and
so he was starting to like kick out the sex club and stuff like that.
yeah, or rezone them basically. They're still there, but
they're the next street over.
When I arrived in New York City after I had moved there, and it was just like in the movies where I packed a couple of bags and got on a train, and in San Diego, and decided to take the train all the way to New York, and I got off the train and I went up Grand Central Station, and it was just so beautiful. And I stepped out of Grand Central Station, and it was just like in the movies. The steam from the subway grates was rising, and I just could not get over, the sights and the sounds, and how that impacted me a lot. It was dramatic, the steam coming up from the subway grates, and the smell of the street vendor, and all that whatever New York City smell. It sounded different, it looked different, and it just was exactly how I pictured it in my mind.
Right.
Scary, exciting, exhilarating, fun. All of that rolled into one moment. It was, as if it was waiting for me, and only me.